Okay, I want to start today with a very specific kind of nightmare. Not a monster under the bed nightmare, but a vacation
I
nightmare.
know these.
So picture this. You're in Spain with a friend, you're hungry, you're tired, you want tacos, they want pasta. You go back and forth, you're bickering a little, but you finally pick a place.
Okay, standard travel stress.
Exactly. So later that night, you're at a bar venting to a local friend, and you say, man, we couldn't agree on dinner y tuvimos una larga discusión.
Ooh, and you just said you had a long discussion.
That's exactly what I thought I said.
Yeah.
Because to my English brain, discussion looks just like discussion, a
Yeah.
talk, a little debate. But the friend, he looks at me like I just said something awful.
Because you did. In Spanish, a discussion isn't a chat. It's a fight. A
Yeah.
proper heated argument. You basically told him your friendship imploded over a plate of pasta.
And that one moment, that split second of panic where my brain goes, wait, which one is it? English definition or Spanish definition?
Yeah.
That is the perfect way into what we're covering today. We're doing a deep dive into a whole stack of research on language processing in bilingual speakers, mostly centered on a chapter by Anna Schwartz and Judith Kroll.
And the mission here, really, is to figure out what is actually happening inside the mind when two languages are living in the same head.
Right. Because it totally debunks this idea I think we all have, that a bilingual person is just like two monolinguals in one body.
It's a really common myth. The idea that you have a little switch in your brain, you flip it to English, and poof, the Spanish part goes dark.
Which, honestly, that's what it feels like. I'm speaking English now. I don't feel like I'm actively swatting away Spanish words.
But the research is so clear on this. That feeling is an illusion. The central idea we're digging into is that you can't selectively shut one language off.
Ever.
They're both active all
Yeah.
the time. It's not a switch. It's more like a sound mixing board where both channels are live 24/7.
So even if I'm reading a book in English all by myself, my Spanish brain is still on.
It's not just on, it's listening in, it's contributing. Sometimes it's shouting out the wrong answer. It's this constant cognitive juggling act.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics of that juggling act. I mean, how do we even learn a word in a new language if both stations are playing at once?
That's the perfect place to start. The research calls it the connection debate. How do you wire a new sound to a concept? Let's use an example. Say you, an English speaker, want to learn the Dutch word for frog.
Okay.
That word is kikker.
Kicker. Got it.
So early theories, like from Potter and others in the 80s, proposed what they called the word association model.
Word association.
It's basically a detour. When you're a beginner, you hear kicker. Your brain doesn't know what that is, so it latches onto the word you already know, frog.
And then frog connects to the image of the little green guy.
Exactly. You're not understanding kicker directly. You're using English as a middleman. You're translating.
Right, which feels like what I do when I'm just starting out.
But the goal, of course, is what they call concept mediation. You want to cut out the middleman. You want kicker to connect straight to the concept of the animal.
A direct line.
Yes. But then things got more interesting. The research mentions a newer model, the Revised Hierarchical Model, the RHM.
And that sounds more complicated.
It is, but it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Kroll and Stewart proposed this, and they realized the wiring isn't the same in both directions. It's asymmetrical.
Asymmetrical. How?
Think about translating. If I give you a Spanish word, say gato, and I ask for the English, how does that feel?
Easy. Instant. Cat.
Right. That's backward translation.
Yeah.
L2 to L1. It's fast because the link from the new word, gato, back to your native word, cat, is a really strong lexical link. It's just word matching.
You're just swapping labels.
Exactly. But now try it another way. Forward translation. If I give you the English word cat and ask you for the Spanish.
It's harder, slower. I have to sort of picture the animal first.
Because the RHM says to go from L1 to L2, you can't just use that fast word matching path. You have to go up through the concept. You retrieve the meaning, the idea of a cat, and then you search for the Spanish label. It's a slower, deeper route.
So beginners are stuck translating, but fluent speakers are living more in that conceptual space.
Precisely. But what's cool is that it's dynamic. Even experts, if they're tired or they come across a rare word, will slip back into that translation shortcut. The wiring is always shifting.
Okay, that makes sense for how the connections are made. But I want to go back to this open gate idea, the fact that we can't turn the other language off.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm just reading an English sentence, is my Spanish brain really doing anything? Or is it just idling?
Oh, it's definitely not idling. It's reading right over your shoulder. And this is where we get into visual word recognition and cognates.
Cognates,
You
the freebies.
know,
Words that are the same in both languages, like piano.
perfect example. Piano. Looks the same, means the same. The research shows you actually process a word like piano faster than a normal English word. It's called facilitation. It's because both your English brain and your Spanish brain are screaming, yes, I know this one, at the exact same time. It's a double confirmation.
Okay, so cognates are helpers,
Yeah.
but then you have the tricksters.
The homographs.
Yeah.
Right. Words that look the same but mean totally different things, like fin, fin.
In English, a shark fin.
But in Spanish, it means the end, like at the end of a movie.
Right.
Studies show that when a bilingual person sees that word, even in an English sentence about sharks, for a split second, the Spanish meaning end also lights up in their brain.
So their brain is literally flashing two conflicting images, a shark and a movie screen.
And that causes inhibition. It slows you down for a millisecond while your brain suppresses the wrong one.
That's wild.
But get this, the part that really blew my mind was that it happens even when the words sound totally different. They studied the word base, B-A-S-E.
Okay, like a baseball base.
Right. In Spanish, spelled the same, but pronounced base.
Base. A completely different sound.
You'd think that would keep them separate, but no. Because the spelling is the same, you still get that cross-language activation. And it actually causes more confusion because the visual input matches, but the sound files your brain is trying to load are clashing.
Wait, my brain is sounding out the Spanish pronunciation even if I'm reading silently in English.
Yes. It's called phonological activation. You can't turn it off. Your brain hears the Spanish in your head even when you don't want it to.
So the gate is wide open for reading. But what about hearing? Surely, if I'm listening to you speak English right now, my brain isn't also scanning for Spanish words.
It seems like it would be really inefficient, right?
Yeah.
But you are absolutely doing it. There's a famous eye tracking study by Spivey and Marion that proved this. The eyes are great because they betray what the brain is thinking before you're even aware of it.
Okay, set the scene for me.
They took Russian English bilinguals, sat them at a table with a bunch of random objects on it. One of those objects is a marker.
A marker. Got it.
And an instruction comes through headphones in clear English. Pick up the marker.
Seems simple enough.
It should be. But also on the table is a stamp. And the Russian word for stamp is marka.
Ah, marka. Which sounds just like the beginning of marker.
Exactly. And the eye-tracking cameras caught it. The second the participants heard, pick up the marker, their eyes darted over to the stamp. The marka. For a split second before they corrected and looked at the marker.
Even though they knew the entire experiment was in English.
Yes. Their brain heard that first syllable, mar, and immediately activated every possible candidate in both languages. Marker and marka were in a two-way race until the very last sound of the word came in.
It sounds exhausting, like trying to listen to one person talk in a crowded room, except the crowd is inside your own head.
It is. But the brain does have one defense mechanism. A study by Ju and Luce found this. It's the accent factor.
The accent factor.
If the person speaking has a perfect native English accent, the bilingual brain is better at suppressing the Russian word.
So the accent is like a clue for the brain.
It's a context cue. The brain says, okay, this sounds authentically English. The probability of a random Russian word showing up is low. I can turn down the volume on the Russian channel. But if the accent is at all ambiguous, both channels stay wide open, just in case.
You know, all this talk about accents and sounds leads to the part of the research I found, I don't know, a little sad, the perceptual magnet.
Sad. Why sad?
Because it sounds like our native language basically breaks our ability to hear things properly forever. Like we lose a superpower we had as babies.
Breaks is maybe a little strong,
Yeah.
but filters is absolutely accurate. As infants, we can distinguish pretty much any sound in any human language. But as our native language takes hold, our brain starts grouping sounds together for efficiency.
And the example they gave was with Spanish and Catalan speakers in Barcelona. These weren't just learners, they were people who'd spoken both languages since they were kids.
Right, but there was a key difference. The group they focused on were Spanish-dominant bilinguals. They grew up with Spanish at home and then learned Catalan when they started school.
So fluent for decades, but not from birth.
Correct. Now, Catalan has two very distinct vowel sounds. Think of them as two slightly different ES. Spanish only has one in that range. And the study showed that these bilinguals, even after 30 years of speaking Catalan daily, literally could not hear the difference between those two Catalan sounds.
They were just deaf to it.
To their brains, it was the exact same sound. Their early wiring for Spanish had created this magnet that just sucked both of those distinct Catalan sounds into the single Spanish category.
So even if you're fluent, Your brain is still forcing the new language through the filter of your original one.
The native wiring is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
But, and this is the twist I think you'll find fascinating, it's not a one-way street.
This is the bleed effect you were telling me about.
Exactly. We always assume it's our L1 messing up our L2. But the research shows your second language can start rewriting the rules of your native one.
Right, the grammar war section. They use that sentence that totally tripped me up.
Let's hear it.
Peter fell in love with the daughter of the psychologist who studied in California.
A classic structural ambiguity. So the question is, who studied in California? The daughter or the psychologist?
For me, it's the psychologist. No question. It just feels right to attach who studied to the last person mentioned.
And that is your English-speaking brain. In English, we have a strong preference for low attachment. We attach the phrase to the most recent noun. But in Spanish, the preference is the opposite. It's high attachment.
So a Spanish speaker would think the daughter studied in California?
That would be their natural default interpretation.
Whoa, okay.
But here's the crazy part. A study by Ducias looked at Spanish-English bilinguals living in the U.S., native Spanish speakers, but immersed in English. When they were given Spanish sentences with that exact structure,
No. Don't tell me they started using the English rule.
they started using the English rule. Even when reading in their native Spanish, they began to assume the psychologist studied in California.
So, their second language, English, basically bullied their native language into changing its fundamental grammar.
Well, lead is a good word for it. It's called reverse influence. It shows that your L1 syntax isn't set in stone. Your second language can actually go back and remodel the architecture of your first.
That's huge. That means being bilingual doesn't just add a new room to your house. It knocks down a wall in the original building.
That is a perfect way to put it. And managing all that construction, all that chaos, requires a ton of mental work. Which brings us to the cognitive workout.
Right? If both languages are on and they're bleeding into each other, how is that not just total chaos all the time?
It is chaos, but it's managed chaos. And that's where things like code switching come in. You know, mixing languages, saying something like, I'm going to deposit his dinero.
I always thought that was just people being lazy or forgetting the word in English.
It's actually the opposite. The research shows that kind of switch is cognitively expensive. It actually slows down your brain for a fraction of a second to do that.
So why do it?
Well, there are social reasons, but biologically, the brain manages this with something called the BIA plus model. Think of it as having a task schema, which is like an air traffic controller in your head.
And that controller has to constantly push the English words down to let the Spanish words out?
That's exactly it. It's called inhibitory control. Because the non-target language is always active, always knocking on the door, the bilingual brain is in a constant state of having to say, nope, not you, not right now.
And doing that all day, every day, that's the workout.
That's the mental gym.
Yeah.
The source material references Bialystok's work on this constant need to inhibit the wrong language, to manage the interference, is like resistance training for the brain's executive functions.
So, if we pull back and look at the whole picture, we have the wiring, this open gate we can't close, our native accent filtering what we hear, and our languages literally rewriting each other. What's the big takeaway here?
I think the main thing is to stop thinking about bilingualism as having two separate books in your head. It's not a library. It's a single, deeply integrated and active system.
Less a library, more a busy intersection with traffic coming from two directions.
And the traffic lights are constantly changing. But for me, the most profound part is that reciprocity. We knew our native language shapes how we learn a new one. But we now know that the second language can reach back and reshape how we think in our native tongue.
It really blurs the line of what a native speaker even is. It's not this pure fixed thing.
Not at all. And that brings up a final kind of provocative thought. The research reminds us that bilinguals aren't the anomaly. They're the majority of the world's population.
Right. We monolinguals are the weird ones, statistically.
We are. So think about the psychologist's daughter example one more time. If learning English can change a Spanish speaker's fundamental grammatical intuition, if it changes who they think studied in California, does learning a new language fundamentally alter your original identity?
Whoa.
I mean, does it actually change how you perceive reality? If your first language is the lens you use to see the world, and your second language comes along and literally regrinds that lens, are you even the same person you were before?
That is something I'm going to be thinking about for a very long time. I might have to go have a larger discussion with myself about it.
Just try not to get into a fight.
I'll do my best.
That's all for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.